سلام 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 peaceful, peaceful, peaceful.
When I was in the process of trying to convert a Muslim from Egypt to become a Christian, I discovered a lot of things that I didn't know. I had assumed wrongly that all Muslims were terrorists, hijackers, kidnappers, that they didn't believe in God, they didn't love Jesus, they worship a black box in the desert, they kiss the ground 5 times a day. This is pretty much what we had been told. These were the things that, the kind of rhetoric that was pumped into our heads, and when we were out here doing, quote, missionary work, these were some of the misconceptions that we suffered on in those days. The person that I had targeted for conversion was named Muhammad Abdul Rahman from Egypt, and he was a very sweet, kind man, and we even wound up working together, traveling together, and we'd go long distances in Texas where I lived at the time, and all the way I would be doing these dialogues with him, which were basically me trying to convert him. At one point, you observe there's a world around you, and of course you say, yes, so how did he get there? Well, for the atheist, of course, there was this big bang took place, boom, everything just jumped out of nothing, you know, just all of a sudden, and then there was, you know, this world that was covered with water, had blue-green algae all over it, and all of a sudden this bacteria started eating it up, and then those little blue birds came around, and some bigger ones started eating them, and a bigger one got those, and they never bothered to tell you where all these things came from. Even in one of the books, I swear, I saw it, one of the books is showing how birds were created, or sorry, evolved, don't use that word, how birds evolved. It was fish, you know, jumping out of the water, trying to, you know, for millions of years they were jumping out of the water to eat those flying things that were coming over, like bugs and things are flying over, and after so many, you know, millions of years of doing that, they're I'm not joking, this is what it said, and I'm looking at this going, hold on a second, guys. Where did the bugs come from? You didn't even you said they were coming jumping for these bugs. So this is no logic in this. These aren't even theories. This is somebody who didn't even take the time to think. You can catch somebody real fast. Did human beings come from monkeys? Stop and think. You've been told that. Every one of us has been told that. This is what the books say clearly. Think about it. And you look at human beings, and you look at monkeys. You know what's interesting about this? You can look at human beings, and you can look at monkeys. You haven't caught it yet, have you? If there's such a thing as humans evolved from monkeys, how come we still have monkeys? Did you even think about that? So what, have they been evolved yet? But if it was really like these guys are saying, this survival of the fittest, you know, that's kind of how they bring this thing, then all of those things that we have out here wouldn't be there. In fact, you know what one of the oldest things on earth is? Cockroaches. How many of you knew that? Cockroaches are one of the oldest things on earth. And they're the most fragile. You can look at a cockroach and he just dies. But 1,000 more will be there tomorrow, right? Evolution. And there's no evidence anywhere that any species ever evolved to another species. Evolution's within species. Anybody heard of somebody by the name of Charles Darwin? Was he an expert in his field or an amateur? It's well known he was an amateur. In fact, it was a hobby for him. He didn't really know what he was saying. The only reason he became popular is because there were some people who liked what he was saying and they were promoting it because it served their purpose. What was the thing that really brought him to a lot of his conclusions. What one thing was it that he discovered, so-called discovered, that made him sure that there was evolution? Anybody know? Finches. Where? It was in the Galapagos Islands off the coast of Ecuador. Now those islands all have different ecological systems. In other words, you have heavy rocks on one, sand on another, trees on another. So the same exact bird is living on these different places. But in each place, the bird has a different bill. The shape of the bill is different to be able to eat what's available on that island. And when you go from island to island, he observed that and he said, well, there's evolution. Never stop to think that they're all alive at the same time. He didn't take into consideration that they had adjusted to their environment. He didn't take into consideration that each and every one of them is alive. He just said that's evolution, trying to prove some points that he had believed that he read from other people who were more or less scientists in their areas. But they only had theories. But in October of 1998, there was a special on PBS talking about the effects of El Nino. Anybody heard about it? They only showed it once. It never showed again. You know what El Nino is? Anybody know El Nino? That weather phenomenon that was going across that part of the world. It would be warm at the wrong time of the year, cold at the wrong time of the year. And we had that going on for a couple of years. It was a strange phenomenon. Okay? And how it affected the Galapagos Islands, the same place. And so here they're showing what happened when it changed and those islands no longer had the same produce on it. They didn't have the same foliage. It was different. And I remember the announcer on the show, he said that Darwin would be surprised to find that it didn't take 6 million years for evolution to change the beaks of these finches. That within 6 months, when the eggs hatched, the beaks had changed to adapt to their environment. Whoops. You didn't read that in any books, did you? Because it doesn't fit the purpose. How many of you heard of Harun Yahya? His real name is Adnan Oktar, and he lives in Turkey, in Istanbul. I went to his house last year, and we sat together, and through a translator, we talked about some of these subjects. Now, his websites are very clear on this. The proof is there. If you want to see about exposing this whole evolution thing with clear proof, we're talking about scientific and genetic and DNA, chromosomes, the whole bit, all the subjects that are real popular to talk about, go and read it and see for yourself that the biggest, and we're talking about one of the biggest frauds that's ever been perpetrated on human beings is this nonsense that we came out of monkeys. Now, I will say that after considering some of the things in our recent political realm, that maybe there could be a few that slip back a few notches. Nah, I won't say that. Besides, I'm from Texas. I got to be careful. Alhamdulillah, you can't elect him again. Where were we? Oh, I want to come back to this proof. Now, what I was doing here was just using the rational argument to show you that something is not right. So what is right? This is what we want to know. What is right? Well, what's right is that as far back as we find human beings on the earth, they really aren't that different. Dr. Fatima Jackson, who is one of the professors in the Maryland University, and she holds a chair for anthropology, was on our television show. I had her on 2 programs. And listen to this one. Have you heard of Cro-Magnon man? Have you heard of Neanderthal man or the Australopithecine? You gotta be careful how you say that one. Have you heard about these? So you assume, because you've probably seen the books like I had when I was a kid growing up, that it shows this man goes to this man, and this one goes to this, and so and so. She said that is not true at all. She said, we know, all of us, she said, we know for a fact that all of them coexisted at the same time. All these so-called men, or Homo sapiens, were existing at the same time. The reason we give a particular time period a name is because we found more of the remains of those particular Homo sapiens than we did the others. So we labeled it that. But they couldn't have progressed because in each time period they all existed, but there were more of this than there were that, and that's the reason you got the name. How many of you knew that? No? You knew it? See, it's not common knowledge, but it is, for a fact, the reality. So it's a very popular thing to just let people become without faith. And this is what I'm very much opposed to. I do not want anybody to lose their faith. This is why we're very careful in our work and in our project not to attack other people's beliefs, because I don't need them to become atheists. This is not a good way. This is not progressive at all. If we want to talk about, for instance, the Bible, if you want to talk about the Bible, it's very easy to disprove that the English Bible ever came from Jesus. I mean, that's like so easy. As soon as you realize that the English didn't exist even 1,000 years ago, how could it be that the English Bible came from Jesus when he was 2,000 years ago? That would be the end of that conversation immediately, wouldn't it? And that's before we even talk about textual criticism, before we talk about the history of the translations and interpolations, etc., etc. But we don't need to go there. That's not where we want to start. We're not here to disprove. What we want to do is, and this is what Allah told us to do, to discuss or argue these points in a way that's better. And the better way is to do what? What Allah has told us, and I'm talking to the Muslims right now, what Allah has told us is that we believe in what was originally sent down. Yes? So we don't have any doubt about the fact that the Bible originally came from Allah, do we? Is there any doubt in your mind? If there is, then you're not a Muslim. Because that's what it says in the Quran. So why bother to talk about the end when we already agree on what's the beginning? Are you with me yet? Let us look at this. How many of you know about Yusuf Ali translation of Quran? Huh? Is that considered revelation? Is that revelation? The English Yusuf Ali came down in the middle of the night at the Dairy Queen and no, this is crazy stuff, yeah? So what we know is that the original came in the Arabic language to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we still hear it today, yes? So why bother to go through all this rigmarole when you can just go to what we have and talk about that? Isn't that more positive? And isn't that the way that Muhammad did it? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Did he? Didn't he talk about what he had rather than going around telling people what they didn't have? If a person's smart enough, they can figure, hey, I like what this guy has, I want that. I was in manufacturing, sales, and marketing for many years. And one of the rules that we always had is sell what you have. Okay, sell what you have, and don't worry about your competition, because if you talk about the competition, they're liable to go over there and buy anyway. If you keep talking about the competition, it must be pretty good. Why you keep talking about it? You follow? Now you talk about what you have. And it's much better. You learn about your competition, of course. Besides, if it turns out theirs is better, maybe you think about it. But in any case, the subject tonight is about salvation. But before we can talk about salvation, it needs to be that we will talk about, is there really a God? Because if there's no God, you don't need to worry about salvation. And if there's no next life, who cares? And this is a real serious problem, because if the vast majority of human beings didn't believe in anything, what would cause them to act with any responsibility? What would morals be if we don't have a belief in something? For instance, just take this for an example. Somebody goes into the courtroom, an atheist, okay? And you're asking him to swear on the Bible. He said, I don't believe in it. You bring the Quran. He said, I don't believe in it. What's he going to swear on? Well, we want you to swear on what you hold dear, so that you're going to tell the truth. What does the atheist believe? He said, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me nothing. Yes or no? Think about it. And if he has no anchor, if he has no, furqan or criterion, he doesn't have any basis, he can do anything he wants to, because he would be amoral. He will use the excuse that, hey, what's good to you might be bad to somebody else. You heard people talk like that? So, what difference does it make? Do it. Feels good, do it. Just don't hurt anybody else. Well, what do you consider hurt? So you have to have some kind of basis, or where will your society be? Now, up until the last 50 years, the number of people on the earth who are atheists has always been in very low percentage, from 3 to 5%. It has grown almost double. It's reaching somewhere close to 8-9% now. You might think that's not a big deal. I consider that very serious, because it means they have no belief in anything. Nothing. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? You ever met an atheist? You ever talked to them? You ever wonder where they're coming from? What do they have? What can they look forward to? I saw today, they had something on the internet. Anybody know about YouTube? You heard about YouTube? What a dumb name. But it works, so I got one too. It's called YouTubeislam.com. Oh yeah. But they were talking about someone who had killed a number of people. He killed a number of people. Now once he knows, and they didn't catch him, once he knows that the maximum he can get is like a 99-year sentence, he's already killed a bunch of people. What's to stop him from killing more now? What? Nothing. If he has no conscience, if he doesn't care, if he doesn't believe in anything, and he already knows the maximum they can do to me is this, so what will stop this guy? Nothing. And that's only one person going around killing people. Stop and think, if you've got 20 or 30,000 people running around the same way, this is, now it gets serious, doesn't it? Anybody ever been to Norway? Sweden? Anybody been to Sweden? Denmark? Okay, all right. You know what I'm talking about? When I went to Sweden, they told me that one of the things they're real happy with is the fact that they are a society based on socialism. That the government itself takes care of you. You don't have to worry about it. From the time you're born until the time you die, from the time you wake up in the morning until the time you go to sleep at night, the government is taking care of you. If you get hurt or injured, they have hospitalization, they have clinics, they have many things for you. If you need education for a job, they have colleges, they have programs that you can learn at home, correspondence, anything like this. And if you need a job, they will give you this, that, and if you can't get a job, they'll still take care of you. If you lose your job, they'll pay you rent. Stop and think. here is a society willing to really take care of you. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? And they bragged and said, you know, we're also the last ones to accept Christianity and the first to kick it out. This is what they said. I guess they thought that would impress me as a Muslim. I didn't like it at all, because that means faith is gone. They said, and we're number one in the world for atheism, no belief. And number one in the world for suicide. Suicide. And the way they said it, it was like, you know, that's another thing for us. Oh yeah. I'm like, what? Now, Stockholm is in Sweden, a city, is similar to New York in that it's made up of a lot of islands with a lot of bridges. I like that. So I'm taking pictures going along, and my guide is telling me, do you know what this bridge that we're standing on right now is famous for? And I'm looking at the bridge, you know, and it has these big fences going up on it. I said, I don't know. He said, people jumping off and killing themselves. I said, oh, really? Okay. So I go over, can't help myself. I got to look down, you know, trying to look out through the wires. And I said, there's no water down there. It's a freeway. He said, yeah, because if fall doesn't get you, a truck will. So, okay. Fascinating hobbies you people have. Then we went to another city called Örebro. And while we were there was this big mountain, looked kind of like a toasted marshmallow, only huge, you know. And I was amazed that I was talking about that mountain. They said, do you know what it's famous for? I said, I don't know. They said, people jumping off and killing themselves. And I'm thinking, you know, you guys, you need to either get a religion or a Game Boy or something, because this is bad. You know, that's really sad. When I went to Denmark, they told me, we're number one for suicide. I met one from Norway, and he said the same thing. What are we talking about here? When a guy loses his job, the government will take care of him, right? But what happens if he loses his wife? What happens if he loses his girlfriend? Huh? What happens if he gets into drugs? Huh? So they kill themselves. This is really an amazing thing. Especially, stop and think of this, an atheist should never want to kill themselves because they don't have any belief of anything afterwards. They're just basically ending it all, giving no possibility at all for a nice day tomorrow. Huh? It's just over. So this is really a sad thing. Again, what I'm saying is, it's very important for those of us of faith to consider the dangers of leaving faith altogether. Whether you're a Jew, a Christian, a Hindu, a Muslim, you need faith in something. Hang on to something, and then till something better comes along. But don't give up, because there are too many evidences that there is something. Now, some of the proofs. First of all, there's a number of atheists who, famous and well-known, have actually now come to the idea that there is a God, only they call it intelligent design. How many of you heard about that? Yeah. That's good news. That's very good news. We have them on our website. A vast majority of them have been influenced, believe it or not, by Islam, by the scholars of Islam who have taken the time to set up meetings and bring them together and sit with them and show them the scientific evidences from the Quran, from the teachings of Muhammad, and many of the things that many scholars 1,000 years ago came up with in Spain, Maghreb, and Misr or Egypt. And these are actually topics of another lecture, inshallah. What I want to feature now is some common sense. Common sense. If there is a creator, if there is intelligent design, then this would fit with a couple of common sense points. For instance, if you said to somebody, hey, we had a big storm the other day and a tornado came through, and when that big whirlwind came through the junkyard, it picked all the metal up, old refrigerators and stoves and automobiles and various and sundry things, picked them up, all of these things rolled around and around, faster and faster and faster, slamming together, banging together, high velocity winds. You can't believe how fast and smashing, and when it dropped down, it was a brand new Rolls Royce with a motor running full of gas. Could it happen? Is it possible? Well, actually, according to illogical logic, it's possible. Because because you could say, if we did it enough times, let's do it 1 billion times, let's do it 50 billion times, eventually, according to that illogical logic, one time, finally, this Rolls Royce would drop down, motor running, full of gas. But you and I both know that's absolutely bizarre. That's stupid. How did you get this? And this is one of the ways that they play with probabilities. But you and I both realize that this is a waste of time. Even if a little kid comes here, they'd say, shut up. Oh, this is dumb. In the meantime, governments spend a lot of money to find out about things like that. I remember talking about wasting money, digressing for a moment. When I was a kid, there was a thing in the news, and they were really harping on the fact that our government wasted a lot of money to study the mating habits of the North American bullfrog. Alhamdulillah. But to come back to this subject of proof, now we realize that random chance doesn't really produce anything. Because if you took all of the elements in the universe and randomly slammed them together billions and billions of times, they still would never form one molecule of protein. The protein, by the way, is the basis of life itself, okay? And you will never get a molecule of protein by accident by slamming all the elements together. It just doesn't happen. So how did life begin? Now, according to the latest science, life starts with water. How many of you know that? Life starts with water. Yes. Well, guess what it said in the Quran 1,400 years ago? Now I'm introducing the Quran. It said that Allah said He brought all life out of water. Whoops. 1,400 years ago. Another thing that they're coming up with now is saying, well, it's not really just a random chance Big Bang, but there was something that took place a long time ago, and there was a solid, and it separated out. Well, this is exactly what Allah said in the Quran as well. But who created that solid in the beginning? Where did it come from? You can't just say there was a big rock floating and then it blew up. It doesn't work like that, because you have to prove, where did the rock come from? How did it get there? I mean, what caused it to blow up? Or another random chance? Then there's a philosophy or theory that all of a sudden it became so dense. Well, why? Because gravity was pulling from the inside. How? Where do you get this idea from? Two things that they will use that you and I are not really able to disprove. One is time. When you say 4 billion years ago, I don't know what's 4 billion. Do you know what's 4 billion years? I don't have a clue. And when they talk about distance, 800 million light years from Earth, I don't know what that is. Do you? So, what we're talking about now is, if there's some proof at all, if there's any evidence at all of something concrete that you can look at, shouldn't you consider that over these nonsense theories? Yes or no? Yes or no? Okay. You can look at yourself as a human being. You don't have to go very far. You can look at yourself and realize that we today cannot produce a robot that will do all the things a human being will do. Can we? Can we? You ever thought about it? Wouldn't it be cool if you had a robot, you could push buttons in or tell it to do stuff? This is a fantasy, you know, that they've had on a lot of the science fiction stuff for years, especially in some of the more recent movies talking about iRobot. I don't know if you know that one. And it's so real, you know. Well, in case you didn't know, that really was a real person. They used a real person to speak, and it was a lot of sci-fi stuff that they put in there with graphics and so on, but it's not real, and you know it. Listen to this. We can't even come up with something equal to the human eye. Never mind the whole body. We can't match one eye of a human being. We can't. Because the eye automatically focuses. When you look close, do this. Look at your hand. Hold your hand up. Look at it. All right? Now quickly look up to the distance and your eye instantly focuses. Now if you're like me, I can't see good up close anymore. My hands got too, but still your eye refocuses this quick. And we've got cameras over here, some real high-tech stuff, but it still isn't going to recover that quick. And if a light hits the camera lens and throws it off, it takes time for it to recover. And if it gets too cold, these camera lenses get this moisture on them and it messes them up. And I know because we work with that all the time. And these are very expensive optics, and we can't even match one eyeball. Oh yeah, and one other thing, if you don't bring enough batteries, I'm picking on somebody, I'm not going to mention who, it quits working. So when you start to think about it, we cannot produce even one molecule of protein. We can't even get close to copying what one eye can do. And then how about this one? Fingerprints. We use fingerprints for identification. Is that true or false? Because they're always different, aren't they? Have you ever wondered about that? You never thought about it? Well, because it's this there, you don't consider it. But also, have you ever noticed this? How many trees are in the world? Anybody know? You don't even want to go there, do you? Consider how many trees there are, how many kinds of trees there are, how many leaves are on all the trees, and there are no two leaves exactly alike. Huh? If you said, wait a minute, I'm sure we could find two alike. Try it. Try it. Because even if you found two that were the exact same color, they wouldn't be the same shape. If they were the same shape, they wouldn't be the same weight. The moisture content wouldn't be the same. It is impossible. And yet when you look at each one of them, they have a design. Each of them is, to me, fascinating to look at. Look at those leaves, and how did they come like that? Snowflakes is another one. They talk about no two snowflakes are alike. That one I can't prove, because by the time you get it into the lab, it melts. But for sure, these designs, why? How? Now here's something for you to think about. Again, just using your logic. Use your logic. Human beings cannot really see the planets with our naked eyes. We see stuff out there, but we don't know what we're looking at. It's just shiny balls at night. That's what it is. Just shiny stuff. And really, you would guess, and that's what they used to do. The Greeks and Romans made all kind of guesses at what was out there, didn't they? And gave it all kind of names. And how about molecules? And nobody ever saw molecules until we had microscopes. So until there were telescopes and until there were microscopes, we really didn't know what was out there. Not really. And even now we're not sure. We still have theories about the atoms. Isn't that true? But with both of these two optic assists, that of the macro and that of the micro, what do we observe? Round spheres. Yes? Round spheres. No triangles, no rectangles. All of them are spheres. And all of them are in some form of orbits. True? Rotating and in orbits. And then those orbits and things are all moving within other things. Is it true or false? Is that how it works? Have you seen some of the pictures how it works? How many of you, for instance, saw Men in Black? Anybody see Men in Black? Remember how it ended? When it did that shot where it comes up off the earth and then you can see the galaxy, the solar system, you see the Milky Way and all of this, and then suddenly all of it was really in a sphere and it was some big thing playing marbles. Remember that? You didn't see it? Yeah. How come they never did Women in Black? They should have Women in Black. For the Muslim sisters with the... Never mind. There's a topic for you, Eddie, next time. Do Women in Black for one of your movies. So, having said this, now I want you to think about this. How could it be 1,400 years ago, a man living in the desert who couldn't read, couldn't write, would come up with a very beautiful piece of, not poetry, something far beyond poetry, a recitation that clearly states about these orbs swimming, turning, even the earth, and it uses the word in Arabic, kawa. Kawa is the winding, like when a man puts a turban on his head, this is kawa, doing this. How? How would anybody know? And it mentioning about the sun in an orbit. Now that's not something that we knew until the last century. The sun also is in orbit. How? How? And then to look to the human being himself. And how are we when we first are created? Inside of the mother, what takes place first? And some of you, maybe you've seen some of the examples, some of the pictures under the microscopes when they show what happens at the point of conception when the egg is fertilized. When the sperm catches that little egg and it is fertilized, and you can only see that under a microscope, what happens? It attaches itself to the wall, the lining of the uterus, the womb, and then when it does that, it forms a clot of blood. And when it does that, it begins to pull its life from the mother, from the host, pulling its life from there. Yeah? Everybody with me? 1,400 years ago, did anybody know that? And I promise you they didn't. In the European circles of knowledge, they thought, even as recent as a few hundred years ago, that a human being had the full shape of a human being inside of the mother, only it was this little small guy, little tiny guy, and he just got bigger, 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 bigger. That's what they thought. They had no clue. But yet 1,400 years ago, the very first words that came in the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, were something like this. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaqa. خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ عَلَقٍ. Recite in the name of your Lord who created human beings from an alaq. I left it in Arabic. An alaq, and you go to the Mawrid or Arabic dictionary, and you find that an alaq is a leech. You know the leech? You go swimming in the water, and this leech thing gets on you, starts, it's blood sucker. You know, blood sucking leech. Kind of like a lawyer. And where was I? Okay, so, and it says also that this is a clinging object, something clinging that attaches itself, and then also another name for it is blood clot. All three. And that is what a human being is when he starts out. And he doesn't start out as a human being in shape. He starts out as this little, looks like a chewed lump. And that is described in the Quran, mudgha. Mudgha means a chewed lump. If you have a piece of chewing gum, throw it down, that's a mudgha in Arabic. The words that are used in the Quran to describe the beginning of a human being in the fetus inside of the mother are exactly describing things that can only be seen under the microscopes. And so much so that some of the embryologists today who have learned this have opted to use these words rather than make up new words. They said, you already got words for it, let's use that. The proof for this, I want you to see the videos. I don't want you to take my word for it. I've already told you about my credibility. I'm from Texas, and you know what that means. So go ahead and check it out for yourself. Go to the website, scienceislam.com, and look for the videos on there and watch 9 different scientists of different disciplines, embryology being one of those, and see what they said. They never had any idea about this until they learned what the Quran is actually teaching and saying 1,400 years ago, and every one of them is amazed, and every one of them is saying the same thing. This cannot be from a human being. It cannot be from that time. It's not possible. and it must be from a God or a higher being or some kind of intelligence or God, and once went so far as to say Allah, and while he was speaking, like I'm speaking here tonight, he said, I guess it's time for me to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu Muhammad Rasulullah. You can see it on the video for yourself. The good news is that once you realize there is a God, there is a hereafter, there is some purpose for your life, you don't have to throw your life away just because you're having bad times. There is good news. Before we talk about salvation on the day of judgment, I want everybody to realize that there's a reason for us to keep going here. Because if you kill yourself, you have no hope at all on the day of judgment. The atheist, according to his own belief, doesn't have any hope for anything. Nor does the Christian, the Jew, or the Muslim. And so when I address, especially the youth, I want you to be sure to tell others the same thing. This is a very critical thing. We have too many people committing suicide today. Too many people going around killing each other and then killing themselves. This is not funny, and there's nothing good about this. And until the people come to grips with a faith that they can hold on to, it's going to continue like that. So we need to promote faith. Let's don't destroy each other's faith. Let's work together to build. And for sure, Allah will be the one who will sort it out in the end. But at least we'll work together along the way, learn from each other, share with each other, and then ultimately it's going to be Him, because He's the judge. But for us as Muslims, this is our salvation. End our program with this in the next few minutes. For us, what we don't do, we don't tell people if you come to Islam, you automatically have salvation. That's not true. We don't tell you if you just say the magic words, Shadu la ilaha illallah, then everything's cool and smooth for you after that. As a matter of fact, the opposite is true. In fact, if you come to Islam, the only thing we can promise you for sure is hellfire. That's easy. I can show you a million ways to do that. But if you want to get salvation in Islam, you have to believe correctly and you have to work toward it. This goes hand in hand. There is faith and works together. If you have faith without works, it's dead. It's nothing. That sound familiar? That's in the Bible. Faith without works is dead. But at the same time, your works, your actions and deeds before the Lord are nothing. They're nothing if you don't have proper faith. And again, that sounds like the Bible. A quote from Paul this time. The other one was from James. But from Paul, you find the same thing, that your good works are filthy rags before the Lord. So your actions are not going to save you. Your faith won't save you. But your faith and your actions together still won't save you in Islam. Nope, not in Islam. You're saying, whoa, man, this is a tough religion. Well, look how tough it really is. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, told us that we have 360 joints in our body. And each one of those joints is due an act of charity every day. Every joint in your body, you owe an act of charity every day for each joint. Is it possible to do that? Well, you're already in trouble. We got some good news. A smile on the face of your brother is an act of charity. You get 360 here? Good, I'm covered for today. No, it doesn't really work like that. But so this is meaning already you got a problem, right? That's not the end of it. There's more. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, told us when it comes to the idea of salvation, to be forgiven, to enter into the Jannah, or paradise, he told us that this is a long, hard road. He told us this is not going to be easy. And in fact, those who want to get the closest to Allah, they're going to be tested the most. He told us that. And then, what Allah said about it in the Quran, in chapter 29, which is called Surah Al-Ankabut, the spider, Allah said, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يأكلوا أمانة. Do the human beings think they're going to be left alone because they said we believe? And they won't be put into a great test, a great tribulation? Just as Allah put the people before through this kind of tribulation, and He will do it again to us to show who are telling the truth and who are the liars. A lot of faiths will tell you, you come join us, it's automatic. Just say the magic words and you're saved. Hallelujah, brother. Islam is saying the opposite. You get in our faith, the first thing that's going to happen, you're going to get smacked with a test. That's what it said. I just read it to you. You're going to get hit hard. And why would anybody want to go to that? Huh? Another thing in other faiths, I've heard many times, that the leaders of the faith, your bishops, your priests, your rabbis, and so on, these are the holy men. You heard of holy men, yeah? These are the people who got the best place located for them in the paradise, right? After all, they're good guys. They're going to be in the top. Islam tells us Allah, God Almighty, is going to start the fire of hell with the scholars of Islam who preached but didn't follow the teachings. Do you understand that? He's going to start fire up. The fire of hell will be started with Muslims who preached but didn't live up to it. That's scary, isn't it? Makes you wonder why Islam is still the fastest growing religion in the world today, doesn't it? And by the way, do you know who comes into Islam the very most? Women. And yet the media tells you women are very abused, put down. Are you abused? No? Are you calling the newspaper a liar? A terrorist. Think about what I just said. There's no encouragement there. I mean, there's no free ride, is it? But here's one thing. Here's one thing. I want you to think about this. When Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had led the prayers and he turned to his companions one day, he said to them, nobody's going to enter paradise except by God's mercy only. Nobody will enter paradise except by God's mercy. They said, even you? He said, even me. Want to talk about this? Listen to this one. He gave an example. He said there will be somebody who will come on the day of judgment. He will have a mountain of good deeds and no bad deeds. This is just an example because everybody will have bad deeds. But he said this was an example. Somebody coming with a mountain of good deeds, no bad deeds. And he'll be asked, would you like to enter paradise on your good deeds or on the mercy of God? He said, what? No bad deeds. I got good deeds. I'll go in on my good deeds. And so they would bring out a mizan, which is a balance, a big teeter-totter, you know. So they bring this big mizan, and on one side they're going to put all of this good deeds over here. And on the other side, the mercy of Allah for one eye. One eye. The value of one eye. And it totally outweighs all of the good deeds. And then they will be asked again. Now, he said, I think I'll go in on the mercy of God. Because we take for granted every day the mercy that He's given us. You can see, where is that coming from? You can smell, where is this coming from? You have taste buds. You have a brain. You have love in your heart. You have compassion. You have a way to figure things out. You have things that happen to you every day. You say, wow, how could that be? How did this happen? This is a coincidence? Things happen to you, and you know it. Where did this come from? Who is making these things happen for you? And you don't even want to say thank you. You don't want to stop long enough just to say thank you. And you sure don't want to take time to obey him. You don't want to do what he wants you to do. Now, for the Jew, for the Christian, and for the Muslim, there are some commandments. The first and foremost of the commandments for the Muslim is, thou shalt not have any other gods beside God. That's for Muslims. Do Christians have something like that? Do they? Well, check out Exodus chapter 20. Check out Deuteronomy chapter 5. Check out Mark chapter 12, verse 29, and see if it doesn't say that exactly. In fact, in Mark 12:29, according to this, in English, it says that Jesus is telling them, peace be upon him, to know, O Israel, the Lord your God is one Lord. And your love, how much love do you have to have for God? How much? Everything. All of it. And this is a good expression here. With all your might and mind and strength. All. A-L-L. That's what it says in the Bible. How much do we have to have as Muslim? How about if I only have 99.99% for Allah, but I happen to also worship something else over here, a little teeny bit? Can I still go to paradise? Nope. Can't do it. So we see again, it's all. It's 100%. First commandment. So if you went down the list of the 10 commandments, you'd find that, wow, same thing. Almost exactly in the same order. Now, again, I'm going to ask, like I did in the beginning of the program, before I wrap it up, how many are not Muslim? Again, put your hands up if you're not Muslim, because I need to ask you a question. Okay, are you familiar with the 10 Commandments? Do you know all of them?
I think so.
You think? Okay, what's the first one? I gave you the first one. What's the second one?
Do not murder.
Do not
Murder.
murder. There is no commandment that says murder. No. Should have called a friend. There's one that says, thou shalt not kill. But actually, what you said would be better sense. It's a bad translation that says, thou shalt not kill. Because if you take what I just said, thou shalt not kill, then you die. You know why? Because we can't eat unless we kill something. You have to kill rice, you have to kill wheat, you have to kill plants, so you can't eat, even if you're a vegetarian. So yes, murder is more appropriate. That's exactly what we have in Islam. That's our commandment. You're trying to borrow here. But it's not number 2. Who knows what number 2 is? Somebody raise your hand, tell me number 2. It's okay if you get your Bible and you cheat, I don't care. Anybody? Number 2. No, come on, I said non-Muslim. What is this? Yeah? What's number 2?
Love thy neighbor.
Huh?
Love thy neighbor.
Love your neighbor? I didn't hear you.
Is it love thy neighbor?
Number 2, love your neighbor?
No.
There's no commandment, love your neighbor. Okay? Not in the 10 Commandments. This is something that's mentioned by Jesus in the New Testament when he says, and I give you a commandment like unto it, that you love your brother as yourself. Okay? Love your brother as yourself. He's describing a kind of love to have too. So you don't get the wrong idea what you're supposed to do with your neighbor. Okay? Just clarification here. Go ahead.
Try again. Is it honor your parents?
Oh, you should have asked the audience on that one, I think. Nope. No, that's not number 2. Yes. What did he say? Steal. That's not number 2. What? Go ahead. Yeah.
Thou shalt not give the Lord's name in vain.
That's no, what about string beans? I don't like them either, but I don't think it's a commandment. No, I can't hear you. Actually, I got a mic. You don't. What?
Thou shalt not take thy Lord's name in vain.
You're getting close, but that's not number 2. That is a commandment, but not number 2. What is it?
Establish prayer.
establish the prayer, they don't have that commandment. We do. That's ours. We're the ones that got that one.
Thou shalt be good to your parents and such.
Thou shalt be good to your parents and such. No, that's not it.
Do not make idols.
Oh, did you find something there? You got a Bible?
I just looked it up.
Oh, you looked it up on the what?
Google.
On Google. Hallelujah, Google. Woo! Well, I heard everything now. I don't know if you can Google the Lord or not. Woo! Right. Thou shalt not make unto me any graven image of anything that walks upon the earth like a man, swims in the sea beneath like a fish, or flies in the air above like a bird. And I was sitting in the congregation one time looking right up at the pastor, watching this, and suddenly it hit me. I got the book in my hand, and I'm reading it, and I'm looking right at him, and there behind him on the cross is a man. And I said, whoa! Man, an image of a man in the church. And then I looked, and on the front, right here, of the podium, right there, it had a big fish. Fishers of men, you know. And then behind him was a stained glass window with a bulb in it. And I said, man, they didn't miss a trick. Woo! Yeah, that was two. What's number three? Anybody know number three?
Do not take thy Lord's name in vain.
Hey, she's a ventriloquist. Good. Wow. All right. Yes, that's right. Number three is don't take the Lord thy God's name in vain. And by the way, you're disqualified. You cannot answer the next question. Because you're Googling over there. But by the way, boys, Googling is better than oogling. And by the way, I don't know if you know this. Some of you, you're not Muslim, maybe you don't know about this, but it is not right for men to stare at women. We are told in the Quran to lower our gaze. Yes? So one of our brothers came from the Middle East, and when he got over here, and he's like this, and the girls are going by, he's going. And we're like, hey, Abdullah, what are you doing? He said, don't mind me, I didn't blink yet. You're allowed one glance. Anyhow, number four says to remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Sabbath, which means, of course, which day of the week? Huh? Huh? Friday? Saturday? Sunday? Happy days? No, that's sorry. Sabbath. Let me give you a clue. It's a Hebrew word. It's a Hebrew word. It's a number. It's a number. And in Arabic we have it very similar to Sabbath. It's Sabbath. 7. All right. I think I just said that. Okay, very good. Now, that means the seventh day. Now we start counting on Sunday. That'll be 1. Monday would be, let's see, 2, Tuesday 3, Wednesday 4, Thursday 5, Friday 6. 7 is Saturday, isn't it? Isn't it? The seventh day of the week, the Sabbath, is Saturday. How did it wind up being Sunday? Anybody know? Who will tell me? It's on the Catholic website, by the way. That's where I got it from.
Daylight savings.
Who put you up to this? Daylight savings. Saved the whole entire day. Yes?
It was the day that Jesus was resurrected on the Sunday.
Huh?
Resurrected on the Sunday.
No, but when did this happen?
In the beginning, he said the Christians wanted to be distinguished from the Jews.
Not according to the Catholic website. Catholic website says that this happened in 325 AD in August, at the Nicaea Council, they changed the day officially. They also changed officially the day of Jesus' birth to be the 25th of December at the same time. And that's when they canonized the Bible, and on and on and on. Yeah, it's on my website. I pulled their page and stuck it over there. I kind of liked it. I didn't change a word. It's exactly like it is from theirs. Just so you know, okay? For 300 years, they continued using the seventh day or Saturday. But you might like to know also that the Council of Nicaea was convened by Constantine, and Constantine was a sun worshiper. He was in a cult called Sol Invictus, and for him it worked out real good to change it to Sunday because, as far as he's concerned, the Lord was the Son, and he was the Son of the Son, or Son of God himself. But that's another story. I'm just letting you understand that 7 is the commandment here, Saturday. What's the next one? We're almost through and we're going to wrap up the program. What's the next one? Well, number 5. Anybody want to take a guess at this? Number 5? How come the Muslims are doing all the answers here? How come you guys know more about these commandments than the Christians? What's up with this? This is embarrassing. All right, go ahead. What do you got? Number 5?
Honor your father and mother.
Honor your father and your mother. That's good, isn't it? Yeah, that's where it comes in. How important is it to honor your mother and your father in Islam? Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that Allah will not look at a person on the day of judgment who dishonored their parents. If he didn't take care of them and give them service, he's not even going to look at them on the day of judgment. So this is how important it is, regardless of their religion. So even if they're not Muslim, you still have to give them proper service and take care of them. In the Quran, Allah says very clearly, when they grow old and they're infirm and you're taking care of them, to lower the wing of mercy to them because they raised you up when you were little. And he continues by telling you not even to say oof while you're taking care of them. He's very clear about the subject. What's number 6? Kill. Thou shalt not kill is what it says, but that makes better sense. It does say thou shalt not kill. Again, I'll repeat. Can you imagine if you can't kill anything, what would you eat? Can't even kill a tree. Kill is kill. Can't kill anything. I guess you could wait till something got, well, you know, you could find something in the road that was already dead, maybe, you know.
Apples.
Apples, you're not really murdering animals. You're taking their life so that you can feed people. And that's what you raise them up for to start with. Anybody know the next one? Number 7.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Now, how come that's the one that you read right off the bat? I want to know. How is that? Adultery. What does it say? Listen to this. You got a phrase in the Bible. You got a good part of a whole chapter in the Quran about this. Read about it. It's in Surah 24, chapter 24, Surah An-Nur, talking all about adultery. It's a big subject there. But that's not the only place. It deals with it in other places in the Quran as well, making it clear not only don't do it, but what happens when people do it, and then what are the ramifications afterwards, what are punishments, what is forgiveness, etc., etc., etc. And you'd be very amazed at how much it makes sense, the logic that goes along with it. What's the next one? Anybody know? Number 8.
Not steal.
Steal! That's right. And we have a lot about that in the Quran as well, about taking things that don't belong to you. That's not good. And then, next. Number 9. No. We don't get to fool around with the neighbors yet. Hold on. Number 9. Huh?
Bear false witness against you.
Bearing false witness. In other words, don't lie. Now, this is a place where you find it in the commandments here. But do you know that this expression occurs in the Quran over and over and over and over? And the word is kadhib. Kadhib. It's throughout the Quran, and it's saying people who deny God are kadhibin. They're liars. Those who are liars will not enter paradise. A Muslim cannot lie and still be a Muslim. They came to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and they asked him, could a coward, somebody that runs away in a war called Joban in the Arabic language, could he be a believer? He said, yeah, somebody's a coward, could run away, he could still be a believer. They said, well, what about one who is tight with his money, very tight with his money, bakhil? And he said, he could still be a believer, yeah. And they said, well, what about somebody who's a liar? He said, no. No. A liar is not a believer. Simple as that. Okay, we're at the very last commandment, and this was about envy, coveting. Don't envy your neighbor's wife, nor his ass, is what it says. Referring to the mule, of course. That's what it says. Envy is so serious, that, and it's a dangerous thing. It hurts you, and it hurts the people that you do it to. So much so that we have in the Quran a way to seek protection against envy and the ones who do envy. The ones who do it. And it's in the next to the last surah of the Quran, and it's called hasid. Hasid is envy, and it's forbidding it, and it's telling you to seek refuge in Allah from doing it or being around those who do it, or the effects of it from other people that do it. It's a very bad thing. So all of the things that we just talked about in the Bible, we found, not only did we find it in Islam, we found clarification, details in the Quran. Now, that's the end of our program. What I want to do now is give you a way to follow up. Many of you have questions you'd like to get clarification, maybe expound on it a little bit more. I've already told you some of the websites, but some of the things about the Bible you might like to know. I wrote a book about the Bible called Bible A Closer Look. But I decided not to sell the book. I wanted it to be free for everybody, so I didn't have it published. Instead, I put it on the internet, and you can have it free, and you can have it. You can print it out in PDF format. You can simply go to islamcode.com, and you'll find it over there. You can also go to 911 Bible, and that's where you'll find it in the PDF format. It's the same book. I mentioned when I started Bridge to Faith, and I want to wrap it up by mentioning one more time the Dean Show. You're watching the Dean Show, and you need to tune in right here regularly and see more of the Dean Show. So until next time, peace be upon you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.